Get off your and do the right thing. Because you've not done the right thing and you've not fixed our laws regarding immigration, we find ourselves in a situation right now. How about just do the right thing because you're an American?
What are you protesting? You're protesting in support of pedophiles, murderers, fraud.
Fundamentally wrong. This is our government because it's right now, it's extremely toxic. I sure do blame Governor Walz. Underneath it all, they're going to uncover the most incredible fraud in the history of our country in Minneapolis.
You see him, you knew him, you love him. Coach Bruce Pearl joins us. You and I, we can't just talk hoops. What are your thoughts? What's going on in Minnesota? What are your thoughts about Minneapolis? What's going on, people's reaction and such?
Yeah, it's just terrible. I mean, it's awful, and you feel so bad for, these deaths obviously did not have to happen. And so, look, both sides have got give a little bit in this situation because it's right now, it's extremely toxic. I sure do blame Governor Walz for the way he's handled it. Would you go back in time and watch how Minneapolis burned over George Floyd? And would you connect the lawlessness? It doesn't make what happened to George Floyd right. It doesn't make what happened to these other two individuals that got killed right. But were they not called out onto the streets? And were they not encouraged and motivated by, Democratic lawmakers to stand up and get your cell phones out? And they're looking at treating ICE and law enforcement like they're Nazis. To equate Anne Frank and her death with any other death going on out there is just wrong, and it's fundamentally wrong. It's not about this is our government. And President Trump was elected to enforce these immigration laws, and they let millions and gazillions and bajillions of illegals in, and it was just terribly unfortunate. Now you're an immigrant, I'm an immigrant. I'm all for legal immigration. I'm all for people that have been here and have worked hard and assimilated, and we got to fix our immigration program. Once again, Congress, get off your ass and do the right thing. Because you've not done the right thing and you've not fixed our laws regarding immigration, we find ourselves in a situation right now because politically you don't know what to do. How about just do the right thing because you're an American? And so I just, it's frustrating, and I do understand both sides of it, but it just needs to be toned down. And why are these people? Why are they on the streets every day? Because we're trying to round up some illegal immigrants that are committed crimes. I don't get it. And you know what? Underneath it all, they're going to uncover the most incredible fraud in the history of our country in Minneapolis. You know what? I bet you Minnesotans all over that state are embarrassed by what's happening in Minneapolis.
I agree. I mean, I know a few of them. One of them, Michelle Tafoya, is going to run for Congress, but I'm with you, Bruce. It's like, man, let's look at the other side of it. What are you protesting? You're protesting in support of pedophiles, murderers, fraud, rapists. I mean, what are you really, you try to look at both sides, and it's like, who are you really protecting? What's the point of what you're doing?
You know what you're doing? By not cooperating with the federal government and simply letting them go into the prisons and take these illegals out, okay? You release them back into the population because you're a sanctuary city, and then you make ICE go into their neighborhoods and their business and schools and try to remove them. You've set this whole thing up to fail instead of being willing to cooperate with the federal government, who is trying to do their job. So, I just think that these things need to be recognized, and more people are going to get hurt if the political leaders can't come to some resolution about how to enforce the laws properly.
Hey, last thing, and I want to hit on this because this is crap. Chicago, Seinfeld's playing, I guess, as a show, and it's being targeted. What, Bruce, I continue to go at this. We've talked about it, and you've been very forthcoming, and you're very involved about anti-Semitism, what's going on in our country. I thought maybe, just maybe, it had slowed, but then I see this stuff coming out of Chicago, and I'm like, Bruce, has this slowed at all? And where are we with anti-Semitism in this country?
Yeah, it's just out of the news cycle right now, Dan. So it is. I tell you what, look, the for whatever reason, and we don't have enough time on the show to fix this issue. Jews have been scapegoats for problems. So right now we got some problems going on in our country, and so we're like, one of the things that really bothers me is young people. The average first-time home buyer age is 40 right now. It used to be back in the day, Dan, when you and I were growing up, we could probably scrape it together, borrow some money, do some things, and maybe get in our home in our mid-20s and start living the American dream. Okay, so the young people are upset about that, frustrated. I get it. Well, who do you blame? So you blame the haves, and right now in this country, the haves, as far as hitting over our weight, would be American Jewry, and that's one of the reasons why Jews should be the greatest patriots in the country, is because this country is one of the few places that gave hardworking Americans who have been through a lot. We didn't come to this country rich. We came here poor and broke, and they turned our boats around because they didn't really want us. It's out there. If you were to just do this, Dan, I'll leave you on this. If rather than protesting Seinfeld because he was Jewish, you protested him because he was an African American, or because he was a woman, or even because he lived a different lifestyle, we wouldn't have this. I mean, you wouldn't have it. But somehow, because he's Jewish, it doesn't work. It doesn't work out. Hey, it's all right. Listen, here's the deal. There are haters out there. You got haters. I got haters. You know what? The majority of them don't hate us. They don't. And so these are obstacles, not roadblocks. And look, I care about what God thinks. That's all I care about. I'm gonna give Him the glory. I'm gonna do the best of my ability, do what He would have me do. And I care what my friends think and people that know me think, but the rest of them, they kiss my ass. Those haters, those Jew haters, kiss my ass.
Boy, I'm with you on that. Coach, we had a monster win. The Fighting Stephen Pearl's first time since 96. Go down to Gaines, Vegas, and beat the freaking Florida Gators ass, Coach. Hell of a win. Congrats.
Hey, I'm telling you, season-defining win. Stephen has played against 8 coaches so far that have been in the Final Four. He has beaten 3 national championship coaches in his first year. I mean, you just can't make this stuff up. It is. It's unbelievable. But, Dan, listen, and I just want to thank you, dad to dad. And listen, everybody that watches this show knows that you and I go back a long, long way. And we've got boys that are in this profession. And we share a lot of things about loving our country and so on and so forth. But you know what? Business is business. And you have a job to do, and you've always done that job. But you believed in Stephen Pearl before anybody else really did, in the sense that you know what he was made of, you knew the fabric, and you know that Auburn was sort of it's okay, this is a tough first job. You didn't coach Indiana your first job. You had to work your way through a few other things, but the timing was right, and he was ready. The boys owned it. And look, they got a long way to go, and who knows how it's all going to finish up. But this team's gotten better, and they are relevant in the world of college basketball. And you and I both old enough to remember a time when, with the exception of the Charles Barkley years, Auburn wasn't relevant in college basketball, and they still are.
Oh, man, big time. You made him big time relevant. And now, Steven's doing a hell of a job. I watched that game, man. I thought, no. Get this thing over with. Get this damn game over with, because I was rooting. I got to ask you a couple things, man. College basketball, Alabama, you live in that state. You're an icon. Alabama found a judge. I don't know how you say the guy's name was, but they issued a temporary restraining order to allow Charles Bediako to play. Now, there's a whole deal about being a pro, signing a pro contract. But let me ask you this, Coach. I've said this, all right? I've said people want the NCAA to fix college basketball. All right. And the thing they're saying is Auburn should be punished by the selection committee come March for playing what the NCAA deemed an ineligible player. What's your stance on what's going on here with this? Should they even consider banning Alabama from the tournament for playing this kid?
Well, I think they should consider it. I think it's something that should be talked about. And look, Dan, as you know, like anything that you would say about Purdue that would be at all critical, it doesn't matter how much you love Matt Painter, or it doesn't matter how much I respect Nate Oates. I'm the Auburn coach, so what I'm saying about Alabama must be something personal, and let's just take that right off the table. This has nothing to do with Auburn and Alabama's rivalry, okay? Well, here's what I don't like, all right? I lost my job, okay, because I had some kids over the house that had committed to me as juniors, and I had them over the house, and I shouldn't have, and I fed them, and I didn't tell the truth about it. I lost an $11 million contract, and I almost got knocked out of coaching. Now, if I'd have gone to court, do you think that the courts would have said, geez, you've got this whole career, you've done all this. That's that's a big penalty. I'm not so sure I couldn't get an injunction and win that. Okay, but I broke the rules. This is what the rules were. I made a mistake. It cost me. All right. And okay, so the NCAA, Alabama went and said, hey, we want to get Bediako eligible. We think there's some argument about the fact that he's being treated differently as an American that played professionally versus European kids. It's a good argument to have. But the NCAA said no. They said, no, he's not eligible. You guys are part of the SEC. You're part of the NCAA. You guys choose to be here. Therefore, you choose to play by our rules. And so when we don't like the ruling, what do? We go to court and get an injunction. It's the same thing when Tennessee and Virginia back in early 2024, Tennessee was going to get was being investigated for an NIL violation of the rules, and it was probably a stupid rule where you couldn't talk to the prospect about what your NIL contract or inducement was going to look like. But look, those were the rules. And in order to get away from not getting penalized, they said, this rule really probably is a violation of antitrust law. And you know what? They were right. And they went to court and they won. And as a result, it took all the teeth out of, what the NCAA could do to enforce their own rules. Okay? And so, you know what? The very people at Alabama or at Tennessee or places like that are in charge of trying to fix this mess are the same people that are actually made the mess what it is because they were ignorant and arrogant in the beginning by not paying the players what they deserved and went to court and lost, and now are going to court every time they don't like a ruling from the NCAA. So you're right, Dan. People, stop blaming the NCAA at this point because the NCAA is powerless. The courts have said so. So what needs to be done? Change the laws. I'm not a lawmaker. I was in Congress 2 weeks ago, Dan, up and down the aisle, and these people care about it. They understand it, but they don't know what to do about it. And I said to every one of them, I said, ma'am, sir, I am not a lawmaker, okay? You are. What the courts have said is what the NCAA is doing is against the law. So change the laws, okay? Or Congress, if you won't and you can't, please tell us. Tell us now so we'll stop wasting our time. And then college football can get with the NFL and figure out how to make an organization that's going to work. The NBA can get with us and figure out what to do with college basketball. We can save women's sports. We can save Olympic sports. What we got right now is unsustainable. And the models must change once we get through this Final Four because what we got going on is that shit crazy.
It is. One of the things when you I've always said this, Coach, when you open things up, they don't stay open this much. Coaches are smart. I've always said this. The rule book started out this thick. Coaches started figuring out ways around rules, and the rule book became this thick. And now they even take the rule book out. So let me ask you, you're sitting there at the NCAA, you know everything you do is going to be challenged in court. Is it worth the NCAA's time to say, I get it, court said you're playing, but this is our tournament? he ain't playing or you ain't playing. Go to court again if you want to. You know, I guess my point is that sometimes does the NCAA have to draw a line in the sand and say, this is what we're doing. Go to court again if you need to. I'll go to court as much as you want to.
At some point, Dan, I think that right now they made a ruling, and Alabama got a court order with a local judge to make that change. And I get it. Listen, the argument that Alabama's making is a good argument, but you make that argument with the NCAA. I have lost appeals. How many times have you lost appeals getting a kid eligible, or all these different? This is what we signed up for, and so no, I do think. How about this? How about the next team that is on Alabama's schedule says, you know what? We're not going. We'll take the forfeit. We're not playing against an athlete that the NCAA has ruled ineligible, because the NCAA ruled him ineligible. So we're just not going to play. Who's going to be penalized then? And I honestly think that right now it's a time to do something pretty drastic to bring attention to the fact that, look, what we got on the court and on the fields is wonderful. I mean, we got the best players right now in college basketball. Having older kids in has made our game better, so on and so forth. But we got to get some rules and guidelines and parameters around what we're doing right now. Because we are not playing on, look, the NCAA was set up to try to create divisions to put men and women on equal playing fields to compete for championships. All right, we are so far away from that right now. It's not even funny. And so let's just, I think this needs to continue to be discussed. And I think that the NCAA should not allow a player that they've ruled ineligible to play. And if they play them, they just play them at their own risk. And that's a risk that Alabama may want to take. And they can say, you know what, this kid shouldn't be treated differently than a foreign kid. And I get that. But to me, the day in court should be with the NCAA, not our court system. So the people that we got in charge of trying to fix it are the same people that are making it even more difficult.
Hey, Coach, speaking of players, this freshman class is phenomenal. I watched this Wagler kid go get 48 at Purdue. You know, that AJ kid dropped 40-some against Utah for BYU. Kid down there for Calvin Sampson got 40-some in a ride. This freshman class is ridiculously good. Why?
Unexplainable. I just think it's one of those, things that let's just say this is the best freshman class in the history of college basketball. The best and the deepest. And look, the kid from Illinois and the kid from Houston, those guys were like, in the 20s because, and it wasn't that they weren't great players. It's just that there were 10 to 12 kids that are freshmen this year that would have been the number one player in their class in almost any other year. And like 10 or 12 of them are all in this class. Part of it was, some reclassification. Part of it was some younger guys like AJ DeMonsta, who obviously is so incredible and physically mature. And let me tell you one other thing real quick. Almost every one of these kids that are the top, like say 10 freshmen in the country or whatever it is, unbelievable kids, unbelievable families, unbelievable work ethic, unbelievable support. Dan, we're talking about old school. You would love to coach any one of these kids. It wasn't because they were like blessed with this ridiculous God-given talent, or they were, the reason why they are where they are because they, went through the, AAU system in a corrupt way. They played for 1,000 different high schools. These are really good kids that have worked really, really hard. So look, what we got going, it just needs fixing because the vast majority of it is unbelievable. How about this year's tournament? I mean, I don't see 4-1s and all chalk going like we saw last year. I mean, look, Auburn and Florida and Houston and Duke were head and shoulders above every other team in college basketball. I mean, whoever else was in the Elite Eight wasn't nearly as good as those Final Fours teams. I think this year, maybe Arizona, you might say that because of where they find themselves. They got a big one tonight. Michigan looks, they're amazing. But they when they're not making shots, and all of a sudden, you pull those big guys out on the perimeter. I just think March is going to be even madder this year. How was that? Was that a good promotion for CBS? Did you like that?
See, I knew as you were going through it that you believed what you said, and then you threw in the promotion. Nobody would have even known except you threw in your own promotion. Like, what you said, I think, is totally right. I love Michigan, and then all of a sudden Wisconsin makes shots. Michigan doesn't make shots. Michigan goes to Penn State and struggles with one of the worst teams, in the Big Ten. And I was waiting for my people, my Serbian brothers, to light up Purdue, and some kid named Wagler does. So I'm with you, man. I'm with you. This March is going to be nuts. Appreciate you, my friend. Go freaking Stephen Pearl. Thank you very much for coming on.
All right, Dan. We'll talk to you soon.
There he goes, the great Bruce Pearl. Stephen Pearl's doing a hell of a job, man. I mean, I'm telling you, he took over a program that had to play basically every good team in the country. And they have played every good team in the country. And they played the brakes off every good team in the country. And he hasn't backed down from it one iota. And I love the kiss my ass. Reminds me of the old Bobby Knight speech. What was it? Something about, and my detractors can kiss my ass.